We love a good transfer season in Counter-Strike. Exciting rumours, hyped rosters, and blockbuster moves. However, the reality isn't always quite what we imagined. Here are 4 of the most hyped transfers in CS that flopped. In 2018, Brazil's legendary 2-time major winning core that put the country on the CS map, spearheaded by Fallen and coldzera, were waning after a period of nearly 2 years of dominance. NA had just won Cloud9's only major ever, but results fell off immediately after, and it didn't really seem like they would ever get back to the same heights. But what if we combined the two? American Stewie2K and later Tarek joining up with Fallen, Fur and coldzera on MIBR was a narrative slam dunk. 2 NA stars fresh from winning NA's only major trophy, combining with one of the game's era-defining cores who had 2 major trophies to their name. Instead of setting the world alight, this roster was a damp squib. With Stewie2K among their number, the team did manage to win a couple of lesser LAN events where they were the only top team in attendance, and that was it. Language issues plagued the squad. There was virtually no improvement on the all-Brazilian roster that had come before, and the team generally stayed stuck in the mud as one on the fringes of the top 5, but one that was unlikely to climb up to the top and stay there. This roster makes the list because it felt like all the players stood still for 8 months. The greatest Brazilian players of all time diluted their status as the leading lights of Brazil for little reason. Whilst 2 of NA's greats exited NA's best lineup, who at one point were top 2 in the world, and also saw no benefit. Arguably, all this lineup did was hamper the success and potentially the development of both of their home regions. 4 rifling greats under one banner. Who are some of the best and most successful riflers in CSGO history? Of course, Nico. If you go a little bit further back, coldzera and Olofmeister should be on your mind. If you want to talk about longevity, then Rain surely deserves a mention. What if I told you that all 4 of these players played on the same FaZe roster? FaZe's superteam had problems with the IGL role in 2019, struggling to find a replacement for Karrigan after the team had mutinied and kicked him out at the end of 2018. They'd started 2018 as the best team in the world, slipped from their perch having been surpassed by the likes of Liquid, Astralis and Na'Vi, and they hadn't been able to recapture the magic. Their solution was to load up on firepower and bring coldzera into the fold to create one of the most stacked rosters of all time. Nico took up the reins as the IGL, Olofmeister moved to the AWP role, and a fresh-faced Brokey was brought in as a rifler. Thus, Frankenstein was born. What ensued was largely underwhelming given the level of talent on the roster. The community got brief glimpses of the immense potential that was just waiting to be unlocked, such as when FaZe won Blast Pro Series Copenhagen 2019 or IEM New York 2020, but in general, coldzera and Nico both struggled to find space on the roster. Olofmeister couldn't step up with the AWP and was a shadow of himself when he returned back to rifling, and the team couldn't settle on a stable roster once Olofmeister stepped down due to burnout. No prizes for guessing why this roster makes the list. 4 of CSGO's greatest riflers were crammed into one team, and we expected fireworks. Instead, Olofmeister was shunted into the AWP role and then couldn't find his feet when he went back to rifling. coldzera never really lived up to the expectations and was particularly poor in 2020, and Nico took a hit to his individual level because he switched over to the IGL role. The partnership between coldzera and Nico is living proof that a roster stacked with firepower can easily become less than the sum of its parts. Cloud9's Russian super team. In 2021, Gambit burst onto the scene with a young squad who rose from nowhere to take the title of #1 team in the world during the online era. The return of LAN towards the end of the year brought some struggles for the youngsters, and their fortunes didn't improve much in 2022 amidst a switch to playing for Cloud9. By midway through 2023, they'd had enough, and they commenced an ambitious rebuild in the off-season. The hype for this one was off the scale. Two major winners in the form of Perfecto and Electronic, with Shiro and Axile already among Cloud9's number, both in the top 5 for HLTV's top 20 players of 2022, and this seemed on paper like a roster that could win every single trophy on offer. The hype died real quick. The team was initially underwhelming, with Electronic providing passable calling at best, and then took a monumental hit after only a few months when Orpa Shiro stepped down, seemingly out of nowhere, suggesting that not all was well behind the scenes. Rather than bring in another sniper, Cloud9 opted to solve the leadership issue by bringing in major winning IGL Boomich, but that simply shifted their problem to the AWP role. Ultimately, Cloud9 were probably slightly better without a proper AWPer than they were without a proper IGL, as results swung modestly in the right direction. But their inability to go toe-to-toe with the best teams in the world, largely due to the lack of a potent sniper, led to what seemed like a natural conclusion. The roster was blown up following the departure of Electronic to Virtus Pro, and the team commenced rebuilding from the ground up. This set of transfers makes the list for obvious reasons. On paper, this team seemed like a shoo-in for a multitude of trophies, a major victory, and to take the throne as the dominant team in the world. It feels like this super team never got the chance to make a real go of it. Liquid Go International. Okay, so admittedly, Liquid had already gone down the international route with the signings of Rainwaker and Patsy midway through 2023, when the departure of Elige ushered forth a significant rebuild of the team. Traditionally a dominant force in North America, Liquid had been struggling to recapture the glory days of 2019 and 2020 for years, and by this time had slipped to become a team that struggled to even break into the top 5 of the world rankings. But Rainwaker and Patsy were riskier pickups, and it was easier to brush that failed experiment off as a false start once rumours of the powerhouse they were building for 2024 began to surface. One of the greatest and most decorated players from the region was returning home in the form of Twists, and the incoming Cadian was a highly touted in-game leader, whose relentlessly proactive and creative mid-rounding style of CS had significantly influenced the Tier 1 meta. Top that off with a 2-time major winning coach, Zeus, and Skulls, one of the hottest prospects in South America, and it really felt like Liquid were cooking with gas. The sights were set on tournament wins, perhaps even major trophies, and the expectations of the community were sky high. Unfortunately, those expectations were not realised. Liquid started by struggling online in the team's traditional home region of North America, losing consistently to the far less prestigious name of M80, and then experienced a car crash by failing to qualify for PGL Major Copenhagen, CS2's first major. Skulls was struggling to transition his previous success into Tier 1 play, decision-making his obvious weakness, Yekindar continued to be a shadow of his former self, and Cadian seemingly couldn't instill his favoured style of play into the team. Liquid's international super team makes the list for 2 reasons. 1, no player other than Twists seemed capable of living up to the hype. And 2, it's such a painful roster to consider because on paper it should have been fire. But rumours coming from behind the scenes suggest that the players could never get on the same page and buy into Cadian's approach. What a waste of time. These are just a few of the most hype transfer flops of all time. Which one takes the top spot in your eyes? Or maybe it's a transfer we didn't even list. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and who knows, maybe we'll make a part 2.